When your favorite team is out of the playoff race and they're playing spoiler for division rivals, you have to look for the good even in a series that they lose. And there was a lot of good to discuss this weekend, but it is the Angels, so there's a lot of bad to discuss as well. And we'll talk all about it today.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
On today's show, the Angels lacked the clutch hit on Friday, and it was too little too late for the offense to make a comeback on Sunday after Yusei Kikuchi returned to the rotation. We'll talk about that. Hey, Zach Neto and Moises Ballesteros had great weekends at the dish. But first, let's talk about the improvements with the young starting pitchers, including Ryan Johnson. Mike, let's go.
Yeah, Johnny and I were texting over the weekend. John sends me a text. He says, we've been able to say a lot that this is someone's best start ever a lot this year.
Yeah.
And you're right. We've been able to say that a lot just kind of as we're talking about how well they did. And Ryan Johnson had his best start of the year on Saturday. And it was fantastic. And before we get to that, let's not forget that Reid Detmers had a really great start on Friday to follow up his previous start. He has been on a roll. So let me take you to Friday. Reid Detmers on Friday, 6 innings, 6 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 5 Ks, 89 pitches. And as the narrative has been for him this year, the offense just decided to not support him all night long. And then they got to run late, and we'll get all the details in segment 3. But Reid Detmers is just out of luck when it comes to actually getting a win when he pitches so well. But he pitched really well on Friday, and then it was followed up with what Ryan Johnson did on Saturday.
Yeah, 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, the only hit the Rangers had all night, no earnies, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts on 88 pitches. 7 innings, 88 pitches, Mike. How often do we get to say that? Took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. Cody Bradford was able to get a sweeper down for a hit to lead off that inning, but took that no-hitter through 5. And if you look at the pitch breakdown, he threw 50% cutters, which is up from 35% on the year, about average, for a total of 44 pitches, 44 cutters thrown, 26% sweepers, up from 20% on the year, a total of 23 sweepers thrown, only 14 splitters and 7 sinkers thrown. So just cutters and sweepers for the most part. And that's actually very similar to what George Clausen did against the Astros on Tuesday. 45% sliders, 37% fastballs, everything else, the sinker, the changeup, the curve, hardly thrown. It was just led by 2 really good pitches from Clausen, and then on Saturday, 2 really good pitches from Ryan Johnson led the way for him.
Yeah, and so that approach has everything to do with what Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register reported on in his article from Friday. He spoke to some of the pitchers and Kurt Suzuki, and he wrote that all the pitchers throw all their bullpen sessions with the full complement of hardware, specifically TrackMan devices. Grayson Rodriguez said, in Baltimore, we used it a lot. I think it can help me. And for me, in the beginning of the year, I was struggling with my stuff. It wasn't where I needed it to be with the movement patterns and the different stuff like that. I wish I would have had it a little bit earlier. It's a useful tool, absolutely, for sure. And then Reid Detmers said the benefit of the technology is how to maintain to see if everything is right. And then Ryan Johnson said that there's been an increase in analytics to help the pitchers prepare. He said they're not bombarding me with all this information. It's just telling me to go out there and we'll take care of the rest. Love that, especially the bombarding me with information, because that was the narrative from earlier this year. And we talked about it on this show last week, that it just felt like the information was just too much at the wrong time. And it sounds like they've figured out the communication pieces to really help these guys out.
I think that has everything to do with what Jeff noted in his article. This part really stood out to us, and it was that Tim Leveque and Michael Wuertz are trying to keep things simple. They split the daily bullpen meetings in two, one for righties and one for lefties, meaning that pitchers don't have to sit through a lot of information that doesn't necessarily apply to them. And then Leveque has also created game plans for the pitchers that are focused on a pitcher's strengths and less emphasis on their weaknesses, on the hitter's weaknesses, I should say. So more about what the pitchers do well and less about how they can, exploit a hitter's weakness. Focus on what you do well versus what that guy doesn't do well at the plate. Kurt Suzuki said to Jeff, this is just a different philosophy where we're focusing on the pitcher's strengths and to try to simplify things for a younger group. Just let them realize how good their stuff is and trust it and attack with it. Now, prior to Kikuchi's start on Sunday, we'll talk about that in segment 3.
We have to. We have to.
Yeah, unfortunately. Prior to the start on Sunday, the entire Angels pitching staff had a collective 1.64 ERA, that includes the starters and the relievers, since August 11th, when Mike Maddox was let go, and that's a total of 11 games, again, prior to Sunday. Is that coincidence? Is it analytics? Is it the simplification and the approach of simplicity that they discussed in Jeff Fletcher's article? What do you think it is? Is it some combination of all three?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a combination of all three. The team is, on a quote unquote hot streak when it comes to pitching. And that kind of happens during a season for really good teams. And this team has not been really good. So we haven't seen a collection of good pitching performances. But over the season, the Angels have been better, especially starting pitching. I think what it really boils down to, John, is that Tim Leveque and Michael Wuertz really know these starters, specifically the young starters. They know them well. And the fact that they would split them up, lefties go here, righties go here, so they're not sitting through all sorts of information that doesn't apply to them, is the wisest leadership decision that they can make.
Yeah, who'd have thought, right?
Right. And I think this is what we run into when you have really successful veteran guys or guys that have been around for a really long time in your organization. Not that they can't bring good things. I'm sure Mike Maddox brought really good things, but guys like Dom Chidi and others, I think what happens is you just get into your regular routine and your regular habits. And then there's a part where you kind of pound your chest a little bit. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been around for a really long time and I want to sound like the smartest guy in the room. So I want every pitcher in this room to hear me talk to Ryan Johnson about what he needs to do at his start when it has nothing to do with everybody else, to hear what I need to say to Reid Detmers when it has nothing to do with everybody else. I think there's a part of that ego plays into it. And I think this move, bringing in a Michael Wuertz and a Tim Leveque, it shows you what humility, simplification, and great communication can do for a team. And they say these, we're going to simplify it for these young guys. That doesn't mean they're not smart. They're smart players. What they're doing is that they're giving them bite-sized information, one bite at a time, so that they can apply it and then grow from it, learn from it, that they can discover how it affects them, affects their body, all of those things. And you can see that the results are really positive, especially for Ryan Johnson, who has been up and down, but he's had some really good, consistent starts and seems like a guy that's figuring out how to pitch with runners on. And when you don't give up any hits, then that makes it a whole lot easier to not have to pitch from the stretch, right? But I think it has to do with a lot of the fact that these guys know what they're doing with these guys because they're used to these guys and they can give them good information. Now it's going to be like, okay, so what do we do next year? Do they keep Tim Leveque and Michael Wuertz? I think that they've earned the right to be considered, right? I think that they've earned the right to be those guys that are continuing to be involved and invested because of what they've done just in these last 11 games.
I think so. I'll say one thing, and that is from the broadcast. What I heard Gooby and Wayne kind of saying is these guys are just using their best stuff until the hitters make the adjustment. And if you're George Clausen and you're going fastball slider and they're not hitting it, they're not adjusting to it,
Why
then
change?
Why change it? Why throw something else? Do it until it stops working. I think that's what we saw from Ryan Johnson. I think that's what we saw from George Clausen. I think Grayson Rodriguez did the same thing, even though his start against the Astros started out a little bit rocky. But it's do it until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like don't throw anything else until you have to. I think that's a really interesting approach. I wonder how much leash that gives these guys, because on one hand, it's great when it's working, but what if it doesn't work? Then how do those young guys respond? Sure. I think that's going to be something that we watch for moving forward. But go ahead.
Do you remember, it was a couple of years ago with Shohei, like he would save some of his pitches for later on. And there was kind of a behind the scenes narrative that was part of the philosophy. Like, don't show your best stuff right away. Man, this is the antithesis of that. This is, no, you give them all your best stuff right away. And if they can't hit it, then keep throwing your best stuff. And then if they do hit it, then we've given you a game plan. We've given you the numbers, the stats, the analytics to be able to adjust and where to hit it, where to go, where to throw it, where to, and all that stuff. I really think that what they're doing right now is they're telling these guys year over year over year, your stuff is really good. This season, in the last 11 games, they've said, yeah, it's really good. So throw it until they figure it out. I like that, right? Yeah. I love how they approach that. These are all the good things you do. So do all these good things. And if they begin to figure out your good things, then we have a game plan for you to adjust to their adjustment.
The second thing I was going to say is I think that Mike Maddox is the type of guy who will work well with somebody like, let's say, Tyler Mahle with the Rangers last year, right? Like he was excellent. Got him a contract with the Giants. They traded him to the Braves. He wasn't good with the Giants. He's better with the Braves. I think if your rotation is Jared Weaver and Clayton Kershaw and Justin Verlander, right? Like that's who Maddox can work well with. Guys who have been there, done that. They know what they're doing. Mike, I think what we have here is a case of Maddox is a Facebook user and Wuertz and Leveque are on TikTok. You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
like they speak the language of the young guys and they know how to communicate with the young guys. I mean, look, you're the pastor of a church now. You weren't going to be the youth pastor forever. That'd be a little bit weird, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're in your 60s and you're still the youth pastor, you expect some upward mobility on one hand, and on the other hand, it's kind of hard to relate to the youth of the 2020s when you're older, right? And not the way you used to. I think that's a big part of what's happening right now with the Angels coaching staff and specifically the pitching. We are going to talk about the Angels hitting coaching staff in segment 2, specifically with Zach Neto. But yes, I love being able to say many times this year, oh, that was so-and-so's best start. Detmers, to be fair, had his quote-unquote best start ever, if you don't count the no-hitter, when Maddox was here. And he also had one when Maddox wasn't here. But for Ryan Johnson and George Clausen, I think it's just that these guys know how to speak their language. I think that Michael Wuertz and Tim Leveque know how to communicate with these guys and help them realize their potential. And I think that if we have such a young rotation, especially with the guys coming up through the minor league system, these are the perfect guys to have in place to kind of implement a top-down philosophy like we've been talking about and to overhaul, what's being preached from the top to the bottom of the organization. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we'll talk about Zach Neto and his improvements at the dish and why I need a job with the Angels. I'll speak on that here in a second, but also Moises Ballesteros having a great weekend as well. We'll get into that and much more coming right up.
Man, running a business should never feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that are just never designed to work together. There's always one app for accounting, and then there's one for inventory and another one for sales, and somehow they just don't talk to each other, and it's a mess, and that's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform, from sales and accounting to inventory and marketing. Everything's going to work together in one place, helping your team to move faster, stay organized, and focused on growing your business instead of trying to manage this software and figuring it all out. And that's frustrating when you have to do that. The best organizations know that success isn't just based on talent. It also has to do with everyone working towards the same goal. And the adjustment to Odoo is going to help you to do that. And they make it so easy and so smooth. Everyone on your team is going to be aware of their role. They're going to know what to do. They're going to be on the same page, and they're going to help your organization move from good to great. And great organizations win because operations matter. And that's where you should get Odoo. You can try it for free right now at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there, and celebrating 10 years of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're happy to have you here with us. Hey, so after Zach Neto had a career day against the Astros, he continued that impressive road trip against the Rangers. He went 1 for 4 with 2 Ks on Friday. Not too impressive, considering the rest of the lineup was not too impressive either. On Saturday, though, he goes 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and 2 runs scored. And on Sunday, he was 2 for 5 with a home run. And Michael, I was furious.
Angry.
Because on the pregame and during the game and the postgame, they were highlighting the changes that he'd been making to his swing. Flattening out his attack angle, making it less loopy, held the bat more flat to his shoulder instead of upright. And Gooby said the phrase, more direct to the baseball, about 1,000 times. And that's all stuff that we discussed on this show, word for word.
Yep. That's why you want a job. They should hire you because you came up with a lot of that information and figured it out.
And it was
and
like
now
July,
all of a sudden
wasn't
happening.
it?
It was. Let's go back. You were a month ahead of all of this, maybe more than that.
I was literally watching the game, turning to my wife and going, "Are you hearing this?
Yeah.
Gooby said more direct to the base. That's what I said." And she was like, "Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone."
She said, the baby needs to be changed.
That's funny. I don't smell anything.
All I smell is that they stole our takes. That's what I smell, right? Yeah.
It's not even about that. It's just like, this information is like out there, right?
Yeah.
It's publicly available.
Yeah, for sure.
We saw it on Baseball Savant just because that's what's available to, the normal baseball fan. And to discover that, he does have a really loopy swing. Oh, his attack angle is the largest attack angle in the league, meaning that it leads to a really loopy swing. Maybe if he was a little bit more flat, maybe if he was more direct to the baseball, maybe if he changed his 2-strike approach to less loopy and more of a flat swing, maybe that could help. And so it's cool to see that translate to Zach Neto for sure. We'll come back to Zach Neto here in a second, but it was also great to see Moises Ballesteros have a great weekend as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Saturday, 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI. He was about 3 feet away from his first home run as an Angel, and then it kind of landed in the only spot in the stadium where it wouldn't have been a home run. That was so frustrating.
There was a short wall 3 feet to the left.
Yeah,
and had it gone that way, it would have been a home run. But then the wall juts up and it's really tall, and it smacked off the top of that wall. Yeah. Oh, come on. It wasn't unlucky in the sense that he's been having a lot of non-luck like we described on Friday. It was more of just not lucky because, if it had been 3 feet to the left, it would have been a home run over the short wall, but instead he hits the high wall. Either way, a really great weekend for him, for sure.
Yeah, Sunday, 2 for 5 with a double and a run scored. He also played some first base, and he looked natural over there. Looked really good over there. And for Mo Baller, it was just a matter of time before he stopped being unlucky. Even though he didn't get the home run, he still had a great hit with a double off the wall. And for Zach Neto, the swing change was a long time coming as well. I guess the question is, let's start with Zach Neto. Why did it take so long to get here? And then we'll talk about Mo Baller. Well, how come it took so long for him to start getting hot? Start with Zach Neto and give me your thoughts.
It's interesting with Zach Neto. Why couldn't they figure it out back in July when he was struggling like we figured it out, right? I'll stop talking that because I know it's probably annoying. But the reason I bring it up, though, is I wonder what communication looks like with the hitting coaches and the coaching staff, because we know that when they let go of Mike Maddox, it's because they weren't utilizing all the technology they had in terms of the TrackMan and the Edgertronic and all of that to help these guys understand what they're doing when they're pitching well. On the other side, Mike, you can have TrackMan for a swing. And you see that exoskeleton that Reid Detmers was talking about with the pitching. You see that with hitting as well. So it's not exclusive to the pitching coaches and the pitching staff. And so one of the things that the other Mo, John Mozeliak, said was that, hey, we're fine with the hitting coaches because they actually are using the technology to help these guys. But then the disconnect there was when Maddox got fired, a lot of Angel fans said, well, if you're going to fire Maddox, you should be firing the hitting coaches because the hitting's been putrid, and at times it has been putrid. There was a lot of missed opportunities on Friday that we'll get into, but as far as, it seems like they're playing a new brand of baseball, so maybe there's some, some time that needs to be had before these guys really get into the swing of things, right? But yeah, with Neto, I wonder what the communication is like there, because, and another thing is, I wonder how long the hitting coaches knew that these changes would work. What does it take to convince a player to make changes? What does it take to convince a player to try something else? Those are all things that I don't think you and I could sit here and answer.
Yeah.
But what we do see is the results, and the changes did take place, and the changes are yielding results. Zach Neto looks like a different guy up there, and this didn't just happen with the Rangers. It goes back to the Astros series where, he had that bat on his shoulder a little bit more flat, and he was swinging at a lower attack angle, and he was more direct to the baseball. All the things that have been said between us here and what Gooby was saying on the broadcast, all true. I just wonder why it took so long, and maybe it has been communicated to him several times and it just took a while to implement it. Maybe it's a recent discovery. It's interesting because, again, if the technology has been there and has been utilized by the hitting coaches in the way that Mozeliak described, I just wonder where the breakdown is there. And maybe it's communication. Maybe it's not quite helping Neto understand why he needed to make those changes or how to make those changes. It just feels like a pretty big disconnect to me.
I look at it this way, that Neto has some really bad habits, and hey, Chicago saying you're a hard habit to break, right? Like, so I think maybe he had a tough time breaking the habit, and he wanted to perform. I think that this guy wants to perform, and he wants to be a guy that has really good numbers. And for a long time, it looked like he just wanted to jack some balls into the upper deck. He wanted to just hit it really hard. And it was working for a bit, but he was also striking out a lot. He was swinging at everything. And maybe he realized he needed to adjust. And the hitting coaches were communicating that to him. But perhaps it was just a really bad habit. And he would get up there and he would forget everything they've talked about, or he would just focus in on what he was doing and then realizing that's not good. That implementation strategy is going to be different for every player. And for Zach Neto, maybe, I shared it. We're processing it. Oh, he's going to work on it. But it maybe just wasn't translating to real time, real at bats, because he went back to, I got to hit this. There's a runner on, or I got to do this. And I think maybe moving him to the cleanup role and letting him play there a little bit might have helped break some of those habits, to realize, like, I just can't keep swinging for the fences. I got to make contact for my team. And we are a different team now. And maybe he's seeing the success that the team is having by making contact and by swinging more level swings. I think that's probably what's happening with Zach Neto, is that it was just a really bad habit. He's pivoted from that bad habit, at least this weekend. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but everything looks better after watching him this weekend. And it seems like he's really implementing what the hitting coaches have passed along.
I could see it being a hard habit to break, considering the last 3 years, the emphasis has been swing for the fences, no matter who you are, be Mike Trout, be Taylor Ward, right? Like I could see that being a hard habit to break when you've been doing that for 2.5, 3 years, right? So that makes sense what you're saying. As far as Mo goes, Mo Baller, like, did you see there was a particular pitch and it was the low and away corner and he smacked it for a double? That's the pitch he's been chasing. That's the pitch, that low and away pitch he chases out of the zone.
Yeah.
Which he's going to have some swing and miss in his game because he does have a league average strikeout rate of about 20% over the course of his career. But man, when he gets a hold of that low and away pitch, I just don't want him to go fishing for that all the time. And to be honest, I didn't see him fishing for that as much as he has been in his first 14 some odd games, because this weekend, I really like to see the patient approach working out for him. And man, when he gets a hold of something, it's really good contact. It's really good quality contact. And so, like we said on Friday, it's just a matter of time. Like, there was a lot of unluckiness there. There's that 10% gap in contact rate between AAA and the majors that he's put up so far. I think that gap will start to close as he gets more used to major league pitching, but it was a really great step forward for Ballesteros this weekend.
Big thank you to our friends at Amazon for this limited ad break. It's back to school season, and you can spend less on your kids with Amazon. We know how crazy back to school shopping can be. It starts with a few items, and then suddenly it just grows and grows and grows. Maybe it's school supplies or clothing or lunch stuff, tech, all that stuff that you need. And then there's all the extra things that you forgot about. Oh, a number 2 pencil, and a pen, and a calculator, or whatever might come up. It all adds up really, really fast. And that's why Amazon has your back for any back to school moment. Like there may be a 9 p.m. moment where you have a kid come to you. Hey, I need this for school tomorrow. Oh, you need it tomorrow. Great, right? And then Amazon has your back because you can order it, and then they've got that delivery between 4 and 6 a.m., which is fantastic. We've done that multiple times at our house because there has been moments where we've gone, oh, we need that
and
tomorrow.
Everything closes at 9 in our sleepy town, so you can
Yeah, and that's late, right? And so it's nice to be able to have Amazon have your back, hook you up with their Prime delivery. So remember, with Amazon's low back-to-school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them, and you still got them everything they need for school. Shop back to school on Amazon and spend less on your kids.
So we talked about some good offensive performances from the weekend. Unfortunately, overall, the Angels were unable to hit and score when it mattered. Just lacked the clutch hit at the right time. Take you back to Friday, Mike, the Angels were 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. So not a lot of opportunities throughout the game, only 6 chances with runners in scoring position. And it turns out the 1 in 1 for 6 was Denzer Guzman, who got that hit and scored the Manfred man from second in the 10th inning. And so that was the Angels' lone run of the game. They took a 1-0 lead at that point. It was the top of the 10th, and of course it was in extras. Joyce comes in for the save. Man, you want to talk about some unluck? We were talking about how unlucky Mo Baller's been. There was that hit that Wyatt Langford got off Ben Joyce. It was like coming in there at 103. It was in on the hands, and Langford, who was 0 for 4 on the night, swings at it, makes contact, and it just dribbles as a double into right field. It was yeah, that's basically all you can do against Ben Joyce is just close your eyes and swing, and that's what Wyatt Langford did. And it certainly didn't help Guzman throwing the ball away on what would have been the last out and keep it tied at least. And so that ended up being all she wrote on Friday. Saturday was a little bit better. Obviously, they won that game 3-0. Mike, they were 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. That's a .250 average. And I like that there were lots of opportunities created. Runners in scoring position 12 times. They get 3 of those in. Trout, Grissom, and Ballesteros were the ones who drove in the runs. Now, on Sunday, it's the 8th inning. Zach Neto hits a home run in the 8th. They were down 5-0. Now it's 5-1. Then Josh Lowe hits a sacrifice fly, drives in Ballesteros. 5-2. Okay. Then Gustavo Campero has his version of a Wyatt Langford, and he kind of hits an inside-out single for an RBI to right field. And so that drives in a 3rd run. But it was too little too late. And why was it too little too late, Michael? Please explain.
Because Yusei Kikuchi is back, and he did what he normally does, right? Like, yeah. I've never been less excited to see a player come back from the IL than Yusei Kikuchi. And it's not because I don't like the player. It's not because I don't think that he could be a good pitcher. I just love watching these young guys pitch, and Yusei comes back and nothing changed. Nothing changed.
And you had to DFA Michael Fulmer to make room for him.
Yeah. I mean, nothing changed for him. He gets out there and he does the same exact stupid things that he does every single time he's out there.
Yeah.
And 5 innings, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks, 2 home runs. It's what he does. And it was just frustrating to watch. And I'm like, how is this better than Sam Aldeguerri? How is this better than George Clausen? How is this better than watching the young guys pitch? And I think it was Jeff Fletcher that tweeted that the Angels haven't had a starting pitcher since Kikuchi went down that was older than 27.
Yeah.
And that was great.
It's Detmers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just annoying. It's annoying. He's annoying because he does the same old nonsense. And, there's all sorts of looked like he was working on arm angle stuff. Like it just felt like nothing's changed for this guy. He's out there doing the same old nonsense, and we're having to watch it and then expect that something's going to be different. This is what we're going to get. He's going to go 5 innings. He's going to give up 47 hits and 6 earned runs. And at least he didn't walk too many guys. Like it's that type of, we're back to that, right? There's anchors on this team that the Angels have gotten rid of. The last Perry anchor, I think, is Yusei Kikuchi.
I was just going to say, it's like the Perry Manassian stank of the last few years came back with Yusei Kikuchi. And it's a shame because he's, by all accounts, a good person and a good teammate and everything. But man, I am so tired of him seemingly taking things into his own hands, where he's got to figure out his arm angle. They were talking on the broadcast about he hasn't thrown that splitter yet. He's throwing a lot of sliders, and then all of a sudden there's a splitter. And it's just it seems like he's dancing to the beat of his own drum up there, and that's frustrating. And so I think that leads into the final question for today. We know at the beginning of the season, he was working on his own arm angle and, trying out different pitch types and stuff. Do Michael Wuertz and Tim Leveque, are they able, I say able, are they able to give him a game plan? And I think the key word there is able. Is this something that they can provide for him? And will it work? Will he accept it? Will he be responsive to that? Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say yes. I just don't know if that's going to be the case because he does seem like he's in the middle of a start going, hey, let's see what happens when I do this. Let's see what happens if I 360 and jump. And I mean, that's what it feels like when
Let's do a frisbee throw. Yeah.
Yeah. And Michael Wuertz and Tim Leveque, it doesn't seem like they have an awareness of Yusei Kikuchi like they have with some of these other young guys.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know he was in the minor leagues, but they weren't in the minor leagues when he was down there, at least lately, right? So I want to say yes, that there is a strategy. Hopefully he can see what it's doing for the other pitchers and that he would begin to buy into that. But John, if he's still working on arm angle and pitch types and stuff like that, when Mike Maddox is there, then I don't see why he would adjust or pivot from that with these guys. Seems like a few of these Angels that are still lingering, maybe just Kikuchi specifically, are in it for themselves and the numbers on the back of the baseball card. But since they've made these moves with bringing in Mo and getting rid of Perry and getting rid of Carpino and having Molly Jolly come in and then getting rid of Maddox, it feels like the team has decided hey, you know what? Maybe it'd be great if we actually played together. It'd be great if we actually did this together. But Yusei Kikuchi still feels like he's out on his own island doing his own thing.
he's on a $21 million a year island, and that's the problem, Mike, is that they've got this really big contract. The only guaranteed money other than Mike Trout that goes into next season, and obviously they have the CBA to deal with and whatnot. So, yeah, hopefully he can turn it around. Hopefully it can be a situation where there's some value and the Angels can maybe move him to a team that could use him, over the off season, because I would love to have a fresh start with the guys that we have been running with, the guys who have led us to a 1.64 ERA since Mike Maddox was let go. It's that staff, and to the credit of the pitching coaches, their work and investment in these young guys that got them there. And then here comes Yusei Kikuchi stinking it up and giving up 5 earned, 2 home runs. It was just very frustrating given what we had seen from the pitching staff over the last couple of weeks and days. Not to say that the offense certainly needs to pick it up and step up for these guys, because they absolutely have to. But again, there was a moment there where he had given up 3 earned, and I was like, okay, like that's reasonable. There was a lot of starts last year where Kikuchi gave up 3 or less, and the offense didn't come through for him. In this situation, it was frustrating to see the Angels be able to fight back a little bit and pick up 3 runs in that 8th inning. And then it still wasn't enough because it was too little too late by then. And just an unfortunate way to end what could have been another winning series for the Angels. It just was for naught with Yusei Kikuchi on the mound.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Get local analysis on a national scale. And you can find Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mike and John, you didn't even talk about Logan O'Hoppe being in the lineup for the Texas Rangers. You guys are the biggest O'Hoppe homers out there. How could you not talk about Logan O'Hoppe? Well, yeah, he got a hit and he scored on a triple. And
then they took him out.
Yeah. Shout out to the Quiet Bear on Twitter for the new name that we're going to call him. It's Logan O'Hoppe in honor of Mike Napoli. I think that would be fitting as well, since he's now a Texas Ranger. All right, friends.
Hopefully he doesn't do what Napoli did, right? At least against us.
It's just that's what happens to us, Mike.
Absolutely.
Have you been an Angel fan? No.
Have you seen O'Hoppe's minor league numbers too? He looks great.
Because they had a game plan for him, and he's
how about that?
Upright. He's upright again, and he's hitting well. So there you go. Anyway, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube. Hit that like button and subscribe button. Even if you're just an audio person, it really helps out if you hit that like and subscribe, and then leave a comment, because we always do our best to get back to everybody, and we definitely read all the comments. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, the Guardians come in. Joe Adell is back, and George Clausen is on the mound. So that'll be a good matchup to watch, and we'll recap all of it tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I've been so thrilled with how Joe's been doing with the Guardians. It makes me very happy to see that. So he certainly has been a boost to their offense, man.
Absolutely.
He's the only one hitting home runs for them. So there you go. All right, friends. We hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, all you sickos who love this Angels team and all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
Oh, so glad it's Clausen and not some nerd on the mound that we can't stand.